Did you use my trick?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Look at that. Look at that. He's got a little mark in there. I love that.
Yeah, come on.
Manual focus vlog life. Come on.
All right, so you want to start vlogging. Yeah, I get it. I've been there. I wanted to start vlogging too, and that's kind of why I vlog now. I just want to preface all this by saying that like I'm still learning. Like everything that I tell you today is what I've learned, what I've researched, what I've come across, and kind of what I do. Doesn't mean that's right or that I know everything. I'm still learning how to do it too, but I'm going to share with you today what I've learned. And hopefully it's helpful. Now, mind you, there's a lot to this. There's a lot to vlogging, but I tried to dumb it down to like 3 main things that can hopefully be takeaways or helpful in some way. So yeah, let's do this. Okay, so first step to this like 3-step process that I have for vlogging. Again, it's a lot, but I'm gonna try and stick it to 3. First thing that I'm noticing with people with vlogging, the biggest problem is that people don't start. Like literally that's the biggest problem, because they think that their story or their life is not interesting enough, or they're scared of what people around them are going to think of them. Is it worth the work, or you know, all these things. There's so many things. A lot of self-doubt plays into this. And so with that being said, the first thing that you have to understand when it comes to vlogging is you have to tell a story. I'm here today to tell you that your story matters. You might be like, well, Pablo, you know, I live in the middle of nowhere. I kind of have a boring job. Like I don't really have, you know, I'm not flying off of cliffs and you know, helicopters and Lamborghinis. Like yeah, okay, I get it. Those are people who have a lot of money, but the more important thing, if you take those people out of those scenarios, is the vlogger themselves, like the person that you connect with. That connection matters way more than the materialistic things that person may have. And so if you're in a position where, you know, you feel like I don't really have the most interesting life or whatever, I'm here to tell you that you have a story. You just have to find your voice. It takes time, but if you find your voice and you tell your story, people will follow along. So that's kind of the first step to vlogging, is like, you know, starting. That's a great place to start. Now, step number 2 when it comes to vlogging. This is kind of the logistical side of vlogging, and I personally think that this helps. Doesn't mean you have to do it this way, but this kind of will help. And this step right here is gonna be kind of the meat of the logistics side of vlogging. So I personally think it helps a lot to have a plan. Having like a message, a theme, like a general theme of like your message of that day or something that you want to do. And like anything else, you can have little subcategories and you can have like moments of spontaneity and all that, but I just think having a plan can really help. Now, with that being said, inside that same category, I like to have a plan, but that also means that during the day while you're filming, it's nice to also plan ahead. What are my transitions going to look like? I want people to see the setting that I'm in. You have to think kind of ahead, like what can I film throughout my day that's not necessarily me like talking to the camera directly, or like vlog style where I have the camera and I'm with people, and you want to plan ahead while you're in the midst of your day as well. Now, on the same point of like logistics and how to vlog, I think personally knowing your gear helps you a lot when it comes to the spontaneity of vlogging. So for example, for me, I use a Lumix GH5. I have 3 lenses that I constantly have with me for vlogging. I have a Leoa 7.5mm 2.0, which is what you're seeing me on right now. It's a very wide angle lens. I'm pretty close to the camera, maybe about a foot away right now. And it really helps obviously for not only the wideness factor, but it's got that vlog look. I'm really close to the camera so that my Rode mic is picking up my audio super clearly. So this is a great vlog lens. And then I also have an Olympus 25mm 1.2 and an Olympus 75mm 1.8, and I use those for all my cinematic sequences, for other types of shots as well. So a lot of people ask me, how do I nail focus all the time? Because there's obviously 2 kinds of cameras when it comes to focus. There's autofocus and then there's manual focus.
Manual focus vlog life, come on.
It takes an extra second to remember that you're using manual, and you have to double check that what you're shooting is in focus. Because I tend to get a lot of comments and people saying like, Pablo, I know you're using a manual focus camera. How the heck are you nailing focus all the time? So I have a little trick.
Did you use my trick?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
So I've seen this trick done a couple times, but my good friend Cody Warner, who's also a vlogger, taught me that on his lens, what he actually used to do is carve out a little line. You knew that if the distance that you held the camera away from your face, whatever natural distance you would hold the camera away from your face, you then would just focus it right on the pinpoint of your eyes, so that you make sure your eyes are in focus. Grab a little X-Acto knife or something, and you would just scratch right at that point where like the dot and the focus, you know what I mean? And then you would actually always hit focus. Now, every time I vlog, every time I even do a sit down thing like this, I'm double checking my focus. Before I even start recording, I look over at my what's this called? Whatever, the screen. The GH5 has a flip out screen. So I'm looking at the screen, I'm double checking, I got my peaking on, so I'm just looking to see, and I make sure that I'm in focus like that right there. I'm just double checking. So I'll even sometimes put my hands up like this to make sure like all the peaking's hitting all right there. I know it looks ridiculous right now to you, but it looks good to me right here on the screen. And then once I'm good and I know that I'm in focus, I double check my audio, and then I'm talking to you like I'm talking to you right now. Now, in that same vein of understanding your camera setup, every time I go out to film, I know that I'm going to be doing 3 types of filming when it comes to vlogging. Like I talked about before, I'm a filmmaker, so I like to do cinematic sequences with whether it be a drone or time lapses or my other 2 lenses that are more film looking. And I like to have that style of filming in my vlogs because not only one is a good practice for when I'm actually on a paid job, but also I just love it. That's kind of how I express myself, and I like to do that. But just because maybe you're not a filmmaker, but you could be a great storyteller, you could literally use a point and shoot. You could use your freaking cell phone and you could tell a great story. So just know your gear in that way. But for me, every time I go to film a vlog, I know that I'm gonna be doing 3 types of filming that day. The first obviously being the cinematic stuff with a drone or a time lapse or my other lenses, whatever. My second style of filming is what I'm doing with you right now. It's a locked off shot. It's like it's a lockdown shot at you. There's nothing moving, like I'm not holding the camera. It's a locked off shot so that you can see the environment that I'm in, but I'm also just talking directly to you in a very focused and personal way, so that you're focused on what I'm saying. I'm the only thing in the shot moving. Like this is the point of this, is so you're really listening to me and I'm really talking to you in a very personal way. And then the third style of filming is this one, where I grab the camera, I'm bringing you along. Like I didn't, when you were sitting down, that's kind of like you and I just sitting down personally, but this is like you coming along with me for my day, for what I'm doing, and I might even point the camera in the other direction so that you can see where I'm walking, where I'm going. Maybe if I'm talking to somebody or something like that, I'll use this pole as an example. I'll be like, hey, what's up? Good morning, pole. Right? And this is kind of me talking to the people that are around me, and you're seeing my point of view. That is kind of what this style of vlogging will do, is it's kind of, you feel the spontaneity of the moment. And I'm super bright right now. That's another thing I should probably talk about. So I know I said I don't use like auto, focus, but I do use auto like other things usually, especially just for vlogging specifically, not client work. When I do client work or paid work, it's all manual everything. So I have complete control as the filmmaker. But when it comes to vlogging, sometimes you don't have time to set all that stuff up, especially when you're the subject of the story. A couple other things to keep in mind when you're vlogging: look for a light source. Like right here we have a window, and actually all of our windows are super diffused, but just find a light source, not a harsh light source, but some type of window or something when you're indoors that you can use as your light for your subject, which is you, me in this case. And then that makes the background a little bit darker, but it keeps the focus on you. Make sure if you have a white shirt or something that you're not overexposing. You want to check your exposure, your light. You want the skin tone to still look nice. So try and get some type of subject light, even if that means you have to create it yourself with a softbox light or anything like that. But finding yourself some natural light rather than shooting like this at a window. Or just think about where you are, what you're doing. As you can see, like you can walk around and vlog obviously, but it looks a lot better if you can walk up to a window and use that as your light. You naturally look better, and then behind you is less of the, you should be the focus rather than the background being the focus. You know what I'm saying? Another important thing to keep in mind is just keep in mind with what's behind you. If you have a Rode mic up top like I do here, it's important to understand like what's behind you and think about that. If there's like we're indoors, but if there's like a car that is like behind you, if you're outside and it's on and like, the motor's rumbling behind you, think about that, because that'll make your cuts harder to make smooth when you're talking, doing talking head stuff like this. Or maybe if you have like an AC unit or a fan or anything like that, just think about what's happening behind you. If there's people talking, if there's an animal, anything. Just think about your audio before you start talking so that it's nice and quiet as you can get it. Obviously with vlogging, you know, there's gonna be things, environments that you're in and all that, but just try and think about that prior to hitting record if you're gonna do a sit down talking head thing like this, so that you can kind of control what you can control, and the most that you can control is your light source and your audio, and in some cases you won't, but at least try and start to think about it before you hit record. Also, one other quick thing I'd like to mention, I use Manfrotto quick release plates from all my vlog setup. So not only does it keep my camera super secure, but it also helps my camera getting on and off the Joby and also on and off of my tripod. And this is what it looks like on the bottom of my, do you see that? Can you see? It's right here. It's on the bottom of my camera. So this is what it looks like on the bottom of my camera. It's not only safer for my camera, but it also helps me to creatively just keep the flow going rather than having to screw something on and screw something off. It's so much easier just to quickly release it from one thing onto the next thing so I can keep the sequence of what I'm talking about going. It just helps creative flow. And on top of that, like I said, it's safer for your camera, it's secure, and it really helps. But what I like to do is I like to think of my day or what I'm doing like a movie. For example, like one time I did a breakfast sequence where I was like filming myself make breakfast. I like to kind of create the scene by like having like, you know, maybe a wide shot to show where I am, but then I also like to have like tight shots of me doing specific things. So it takes time sometimes to like set the camera up at an angle, you know, it'll take a while just to set it up, and all you're doing is opening the drawer, getting a fork and closing it. It may take time, but it's worth it, because if you get really close and show people really like tight shots of what it is you're doing, it makes simple things interesting. And this little bit goes for specifically filmmakers, that this is a way to kind of practice that. But again, if you're not a filmmaker, it's okay. You can still tell a great story. All right, so hopefully I didn't miss like anything. Like I know there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot to vlogging, and I'm trying to give you as much as I can, and hopefully I didn't miss anything. But generally speaking, that's just about everything. But that brings me to my third and final point, which is you have to be consistent with vlogging. Because I think, don't get me wrong, there's people that vlog here and there, but I feel like vlogging in its best form, personally, I think it's like daily, kind of, or as close to daily as you can get it. Because I feel like with vlogging's a very like personal thing. You know, you're bringing people into like your life, into what you're doing. I just think it's such a personal thing that when you don't do it on a consistent basis, then there's no way that people can follow along from a personal standpoint. You can do a vlog every once in a while just because it's fun or whatever, of course, and that's, you know, that's great too. But I think if you want people to really follow, and you want people to fall in love with you and what you're doing, not that it's about likes or follows or subs or anything like that. It should never be about that. It should be just about you sharing your story. But it does get fun when people get involved, and when they have perspectives and they have, you know, ideas, and they want to share in what you're doing. It's a beautiful relationship that you get to have with people. It makes it very fun, and if you want it to get to that point, you have to be consistent, and you can't quit. And the fact of the matter with that being said is that it's not for everybody. Like, vlogging's just not for everybody. It's not an easy thing to do, especially on a daily basis or a very consistent basis anyway. You know, it takes a lot of time. You know, you're carrying a big old camera around with you. You have to edit all the stuff that you were talking about that day. And if you're vlogging every day, that means you're editing every day, and there's hours of your day and time, and you might have to trade sleep for work. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, and it may not be for you. But here's the thing, vlogging becomes easier when it comes from your heart. Because if you're sharing your story, if you're being real with people, if you're not trying to be somebody else or be the next fill in the blank, if you're trying to just be you and you're just sharing your heart with people and what you're learning with people, and something Scott and I like to do is document our journey. We're just sharing with you what it is we're constantly doing. Vlogging's not as hard that way because all you're doing is just sharing. And something that I actually learned from Scott is that, you know, people come to YouTube for two reasons: entertainment and education. And if you can entertain people or even educate people, and I think vlogging is a great way to do both of those, because you're showing people the behind the scenes of you, but you're also showing people what you're learning, and you get to actually educate people while you're entertaining them. And I think vlogging is a great way to do that. With that being said, if you take care of those 3 points, first, don't be afraid to share your story. 2, plan ahead, learn the logistics of your setup and what you're working with. And 3, be consistent, don't quit. If you do those 3 things, I personally think vlogging can work for you. So I guess we're back to the original question of how do you vlog? A good way to vlog is to start. Be yourself, tell your story. Be patient and find your voice. You don't need to be the next anything. You need to be the first you. You were put on this earth for a reason, so I personally think your story's worth it. But hey, that's just me.